So a couple of weeks ago when you mentioned this, there's the great mule caper. And so I went and started to research what happened with the great mule caper. And there's a lot of lore, and to the members of the Naval Academy class of 1992, you guys did an excellent thing. Um, Certainly assured their place in Academy lore. And I think that was the first time that you guys successfully pulled this off. But I have to say, and this is where we're going tonight. I want to tell you the legend of Checa's Raiders. And so, and to share this story, and to rather than try to tell it alone, I'm going to introduce you to the Checa's Raiders here. And I don't know if you can see them all, but the guy on the very left is a guy named Gray Scott. And then as I work my way across, the guy next to the mule, very close to the back there, is a guy named Steve Checa. I'm going to leave the guy in front off for just a second. There's two other folks in the photo. A guy named Phil Dieterer. It may be covered up right now. Let me do that. So this guy right here with the York College or whatever that said on it, that's Phil Dieterer. Phil, unfortunately, is now deceased. The guy behind him is Dave Shutt. And then the gentleman at the front here is none other than Jeff Modisette, who's a guest on the podcast with us tonight. And so I didn't mean to do that, but I kind of let the secret out of the bag. But anyway, what I wanted to do, Jason, was, and hopefully this is going to work, is to maybe interview Jeff a little bit about what actually happened
Please do.
on our podcast. So Jeff, do we have good
awesome.
comms? Can we hear you, and can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So
yes, sir.
Good.
So, and I may unshare for just a second so that you guys can see Jeff. I don't know where y'all are seeing him here, but Jeff Modisette is literally a lifelong friend of mine. Jeff's father, Sam, and my father were classmates together at VMI in the class of 1941. Jeff's dad was a combat engineer in World War II, served in North Africa, and I think wounded in Italy, right, Jeff? And his dad was at Anzio. His dad was just a real warrior. And so when Jeff and I were youngsters, our fathers put us together, and I think we were well under the age of 3 or 4 when we first we met. So one of my best friends in the world is Jeff Modisette. But Jeff, I want to interview you on behalf of all these Navy people. And it is a true story, Jason, and then we're going to let y'all ask Jeff questions. But the first question I've got for Jeff was, this 1992 event took a heck of a lot of planning on the part of the Naval Academy. How did you guys come up with the concept that you wanted to go do this in 1981?
Well, first of all, I have to say I'm very impressed that they got all 4 mules at one time.
We are very proud of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you were able to do it without actually capturing the entire corral, or mules en route to a vet or something. But at VMI, each class tries to outdo the other class. At VMI, the plebe system, we're called rats, but you have like a big brother as your first classman. Similar to, I understand, at the Naval Academy, is it first or first?
Firsties.
Is that correct? Firsties. Okay, but you have a senior that I guess that you are related to for someone to help groom and lead the way to make you a better cadet.
I don't think they do that. I don't know if they have like a mentor at the Naval Academy.
Yeah, not exactly. We have the entire class of juniors who are our dedicated mentors, if you will.
Okay, I got you. Well, anyway, at VMI, most classes try, at least back in the 80s, most classes try to outdo or outshine or outperform other classes as a good-natured rivalry. And so our Dykes class, the first class when we were rats, had the year before told us stories how they'd gone to West Point, lost the football game, but had done some things that, other schools and classes hadn't been able to achieve before. So I happened to Dyke, so-called work, or I have a mentor as a first classman along with Steve Checka. And we said, we don't know what we're going to do 4 years from now, but whatever it is, we're going to come up with something that can beat the first class from our rat year. And so in 81 rolls around for the fall season, we thought we'd have a pretty good football team. And about a week before West Point, we were just sitting around in a room trying to figure out what we could do to really make a mark at West Point. Back then, there was no internet. All I ever really knew much about West Point was the fact that I knew they had mules with an A branded in them. I knew that they were hugely popular for the Corps cadets at West Point. Not much more about that. And so since we were first classmen at VMI, you got a couple days off a semester, and we put in to go a little early up to the football game. The Cheka family lived in New York. And so a bunch of us decided we'd go up Wednesday night. And so we got up Wednesday night. Drove up there all day Wednesday, got up there Wednesday night, and the next morning got up early, had no idea what we were going to do at West Point. We had no plan whatsoever. We threw a bunch of fatigues in the car with our jeans, pulled together what cash we had on hand, and took a road trip for Long Island. Included with us was Steve Checka's sister, who was young, attractive, 22-year-old at the time. And so she really turned out to be our greatest asset.
So she went on the post and got all the recon done, and was able to convince certain members of the cadre there to give her all kinds of information. How much, Jeff? So then you guys went and had pizza and beer and decided with the intel how to do this. What materials did you have to go gather to in order to pull this off?
Well, Jane Checka had found out from the captain, who I guess was the lead person responsible for the mules, I guess, who was a veterinarian, probably assigned to post, that of all the mules, their names, what they preferred, which ones like which foods, their ages, their popularity. And so we went up that night for dinner, and we pooled all our money together. We rented a trailer that we could attach to the Checka's automobile. His parents had been out of town, so we took their family vehicle, of course, as any other 21-year-old would do. And we, sat down, ate some pizza, had a few beers, and we bought a ton of candy. We heard that the mules had a sweet tooth. All 5 of us, there was one from a rural town in Virginia. The other 4 of us were from anywhere from Philly to New York to city of Richmond, and really had no idea the size of the mule or mules in general. Rode horses growing up some, but we figured at the age that we were, as clueless as we were, we figured, you made a donkey and a horse, they probably get smaller, not bigger. So we were in for a big surprise on the size of the mule.
They rented the smallest U-Haul trailer that you can get.
Well, we really didn't have much money after we finished eating dinner. So we, for like, $28 or $25, we rented the largest trailer we could find, which is a pull behind Jartran trailer. If you were going to move your apartment, you probably have, for one room loft apartment in New York, you'd have a small trailer, and that's about the size we had. Obviously today, it's not the greatest thing to put a big beast in, but back then, that's all the money we had at the time. So our goal was really to get back to West Point. The corral was in the middle of campus. It's an academic area all around. There's 5 guys from VMI in the South, never been on campus before. So we were going to use the night cover to go down and see what we could do to grab a mule. And quite honestly, we were very lucky. Unlike Annapolis, every year they'd be on the lookout for you to come. and take their mules. VMI, they didn't think we'd try anything before Friday night. The fact that we were there Thursday night, very, very lucky for us. Three of us, put on some dark camos and moved on down to the corral, motioned to the fourth one that we were going into the corral. We were very fortunate. We got in there, all we had was some rope and a bag of candy. And we were chasing mules around the corral as quiet as we could. And finally figured out that the gluttonous of the beast happened to be Spartacus, the most popular of the mules, went for the bag of candy and was, we had candied apples, we had all sorts of sugar, and the mule went crazy. And so we were able to rope him and, signal to the other member, and Steve Checkup brought his parents' vehicle on down with the trailer.
How'd you get the mule into the back of that rental trailer?
Well, Dave Shutt was on the front with a rope, as I remember, and there's two of us literally coaxing and pushing the mule to get it into the trailer. And of course, the mule could have kicked us, probably killed us. We didn't even think about that at the time. We were very clueless on the whole event. And we pushed the mule, and he was pulling it. The doors were open, and we finally shoved the mule into the trailer, threw the rest of the bag of candy that he went for, closed the door as quietly as we could, and just couldn't believe we'd captured one. Then all of a sudden we heard this huge pounding on the floor of the trailer from the mule, opened the door and realized we'd forgotten we left Dave in there with him, and he went shooting through the four legs to come out. So we were very, very obviously happy we'd gotten the beast, and then figured we'd have to find a way to get off of post as quietly as possible.
And how did that happen?
We pretended to be tourists with maps, probably close to midnight, maybe 11 o'clock, 11:30. I think campus upper end by their ski loft there, the MPs have a gate there, and a lot of tourists come in at the main entrance and go out the top. So we were able to get out before the gate closed, and we just kind of waved to the MPs and went very quietly, drove very slowly, and went on down, away down the hill, down the mountain.
So the next night, you guys got, I can't tell all of the gruesome details. They did have a veterinarian check out the mule. The next night, Jeff, what happened? Who came to interview you, and what was the story on the evening news?
Well, the whole reason we had taken the mule was try to, it was a core trip from VMI, and we were trying to drum up support for the football team, who hadn't beat West Point forever. On those few games we got to play each other. And so Friday night, the Chekos family had already planned to have a party for those people in the Corps that wanted to come in Long Island. And we had taken the mule on the way there. We ended up grazing along the highway with it. And so grass runs right through the mule, so we wanted to get it checked out. So we went ahead and put it on a ranch on Long Island. And a friend of ours that graduated the year before had a ranch there. So we were able to get it checked out by a veterinarian doctor to make sure it was in good shape, that nothing had happened to it, it wasn't hurt. And then that evening, before the party, we were able to have, I guess, the largest CBS News affiliate in the world interview, so they could say somewhere on Long Island, and we could show the pictures of Spartacus the mule that we had now renamed and given it more of a hat, and put red, white, and yellow VMI emblems on it.
A straw hat.
Hold on, what'd you name him?
Wow, I'm trying to think back. I think we called him Wilbur. We were from the South, Southern school, so we named Spartacus Wilbur. He seemed to like it anyway. It's much more appropriate for him than Spartacus.
So Jeff is now known as the Mule Whisperer. One last quick little vignette, Jeff, bringing the mule back to the game during the fourth quarter. If you can tell that last little bit, how you snuck them on post, and then maybe there's some questions. And Jason, how are we doing for time, buddy?
Oh, you're fine. Just keep right on going.
Okay.
Well, we were totally surprised we got their mule. They disclaimed that their mule had been taken in the press. That's why we went on CBS News affiliate to actually show the mule so they can no longer say nobody had it. Apparently, they had a lot of their first-classmen or upperclassmen out on Long Island looking for it. But since it wasn't near us, it was on a ranch, running around with other horses. We felt pretty comfortable. But the next day for the football game, we didn't have a lot of time to figure out how we were going to get it back to the stadium and really try to pump up the core and the football team by bringing the mule in. And so Steve Checka's family is very resourceful. One of his sisters, his older sister, had a limousine business. And so we sat around for a few hours and came up where we could have a concessionaire company that would replenish the concessionaire goods for the game. And so we hired a German-speaking driver. We rented a truck that didn't look like any sort of horse or animal trailer. And we created, false bill of ladings for, concessionaire products. And so the goal was to put Wilbur, our new named animal, into the new truck and use the original Jartran trailer as a decoy and keep the real mule until we needed to bring him in up around the mountains outside or the hills outside of West Point. Unfortunately, the game was extremely close. The MPs were out in full force. They put road barricades all around the stadium. They knew we would try to bring Spartacus back. Throughout the game, the corps were both going at each other with verbal taunts and chats. Our regimental commander, Darren McDew, did a great job. It told us after the event that, he actually rode one of the mules around, was getting all sorts of threats about being traded for their animal. So the game got down to the last 2 minutes. MPs were out in full force. We sent the Jartran trailer down, and we switched back from the main truck and sent it down as a decoy, and they arrested the driver, or at least detained the driver. And then we went ahead and put the mule back in the trailer and behind Steve Checka's car, and we went on down through with 2 minutes left in the game. West Point had the ball. They were driving down. They were in the 15-yard line. It's coming down to the final few plays of the game. So we thought this was our best bet to try to get it into the stadium when people may be more engaged with the game going on. And literally, Steve went through the barriers, the traffic barriers. The MPs were chasing him. Two of us were in the back of the trailer with the mule. And literally, as soon as he pulled up to the stadium, we opened the doors and got the mule out. And a ton of West Pointer benefactors came and got around to take the mule away. And unfortunately, we couldn't get enough rats or other corps members from VMI to circle around to get him to the field. So we got him to the stadium. We just never got him in. But VMI did prevail and won the game at the end. So as far as we were concerned, successful weekend.
It was a damn successful weekend, Jason. So I appreciate you letting Jeff join us and tell the story. I don't know if y'all got specific questions, but you wanted to hear it right from the mule's mouth. There it was.
Wow. That was epic. Wow. I only wish.
Are there any West Pointers on the call at this point that overlapped?
I'm sure there are. Anybody?
And,
I guess
there are other photographs from the game, but in
the
pictures that were taken in 1981, unfortunately contain things that aren't politically correct in 2020. So there's a lot of video and pictures and so forth. Unfortunately, I think we can't share anymore. But it was a great experience. It was a great experience, and it did happen.
That is incredible. That is incredible. I only wish Dave Rudko were here. He's one of our 92 guys who was actually in on the plot back in 1992. But this is just amazing, Jeff. I mean, you know, what I know, I was a plebe when this happened in 92 with the 4 mules. But what I know is that it was a matter of, I mean, months of planning, right? There was actually I want to say one of the company officers at the Naval Academy was a Navy SEAL who helped out, and you know, it was not an official activity or anything, but you know, there was a lot of support. But you guys, I mean, this is sort of a triumph of audacity over planning, right? I mean, you guys just kind of went in there and did it. That's amazing, Jeff.
Well, first of all, I'm surprised anybody wants to hear about it. I haven't spoken about it for over.
I talk about it every year.
But other than what Bob asked me for questions, or if I'm drinking a few beers, but truthfully, like I said, it was all luck, and we really didn't have a plan. We waited up on the spot. I mean, if you think about it, it was stupid and foolish. There's 5 guys from VMI sneaking into West Point in the middle of the entire academic community. And if you look at where the corral is, it's down in the bottom of a ravine terrain-wise, and all the academic buildings look down on it. It's really stupid, quite honestly, as far as any military operation. But, you know, again, we were 21 years old, and you know, everybody thinks you're invincible and you can do anything. So
Jeff, I will give you that you guys were lucky. I'll give you that you were lucky, but I will also assert that you made a lot of your own luck, right? You know, this is, look, we do business here too, right? And the same things apply in the business world as in military. Audacity matters, and you know, you guys took the mule by the horns. And that's what. I got a question for you though, Jeff. So you guys were, you said mostly city kids, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, Richmond, Virginia is not like New York. That's where Bob and I grew up. But
Fair enough.
Grew up on Long Island or Philly or whatever.
All right.
Yes.
And you said you brought some candy because you knew the you know, mules like candy. I'm going to guess that you might have given the mule more candy than he actually needed. How did that whole candy thing play out?
That's one of the reasons we went to got the vet to look at him. So we didn't want him to have a, you know, he'd go into an insulin fit or some sort. He had more candy
Jason.
Yes,
Jason, I'm gonna steal one of Jeff's best stories, but they went back and they arrived back at the Checka's home in Long Island at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They didn't have anywhere to put the mules, so they put it in the garage. All right, and they all went to sleep. And Mr. Checka came home that morning early, hit the garage door opener, and the mule had crapped all over the inside of the garage, in addition to being surprised there was a mule in his garage. So, anyway, like I said, there's more graphic parts of the story than perhaps decorum would allow us to share.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Any questions for Bob or Jeff? Well, there's still veteran crowd there in the background someplace, if anybody remembers it.
Everybody else's stories are much more interesting. You know, one of the things that came out of my discussion today with Jeff is that I think I'm going to get all 4 of the living Checka's Raiders on, and we're going to try to do a podcast episode. So if I can get, you know, everybody's perspective, and one of the interesting stories also was we went to our 25th reunion, and Jeff sat across the table from the commandant of VMI at the time. We invited him back, and his perspective as a, you know, an official guest of the commandant at West Point, and the cool reception that he was given because what was going on was an hysterical anecdotal part of the whole story. So,
I would imagine so. I hoped at some point to be able to do something similar to what you're proposing, and to get the, you know, the players from '92 from both sides of the action, you know, onto a meetup to tell the story. But I've been advised
I have
that
them on the podcast too. We'll get to see.
Well, I've been advised that feelings are still a little hurt 30 years later, and it might not be an appropriate thing to ask for. So if you can get your guys on, I mean, it's been a little bit longer, so maybe feathers have unruffled themselves a bit more since then. All right, so Bob, I want to well, first of all, Jeff, good Lord, thank you, man, for telling that story. That's just epic. I can't wait to see the video on that one. I thought we were the first. I had no idea that you guys had come before us, and it's heartwarming to know that the mules, you know, get out once in a while and see the world. So that's
as I mentioned, I'm much more impressed when you got all four at one time.
That was something.
Better planned operation.
Oh, you should have seen the big bonfire party the night before the game. That was also epic.
Did you barbecue one of them? I mean, that would have been even better.
No, Lord.
What do they taste like?
No, but they did lead, as I recall, and maybe some of you guys in 92 can correct me here, but as I recall, we got them into the Eagles Stadium and they let all four of them out for a formal prisoner exchange at halftime. Is that what happened?
That's good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of urban legend that has developed over the decades. There's a lot of untrue embellishment to this story. So I wanted to be sure you heard it right from the source.
That is probably the closest guarantor of truth that we could hope for, although, you know, as my dad, who's on the call, taught me once. Bob, do you know the difference between a sea story and a fairy tale?
No.
Well, you know, a fairy tale starts out once upon a time, and the major difference between the two is that a sea story starts out, now this is no shit, right? Otherwise, there's much the same.